Hi, my name is Grace Galamis. I will be doing a project on my second essay for this quarter. My essay was about if we should test prisoners that have a life sentence in prison and switch it out with animal testing. In other words, we should be testing on people that have done murders, child molesters, people that have done really, really bad things and have a life sentence in prison, if we should, instead of testing on animals, we should test on them. That is my topic for this podcast. And I will be going over two different people with two different opinions. One either goes for having testing on prisoners or one doesn't. I don't know their both opinions. We'll see what happens. They don't know the subject until we start recording, so they will kind of be put on the spot. Um, yes, this is a very interesting topic because there's a lot of things that can connect to it. But it's just an opinion and my opinion, and it's just a really interesting topic. A little bit of the format and how it's gonna go. The first bit of the podcast is gonna be about me, about what I think. It's gonna go a little, maybe 2-3 minutes of me talking just a little bit, and then it's gonna go to my second person, Matea. She's gonna say her opinion. I have a couple questions for her, looking about 7 to 8 questions, and see how that goes. Then we're gonna move on to my other person, Steph. She's also gonna say her opinion, go through those same 8 questions, see what the difference is. I mean, we might bring other topics into it. I mean, we could just talk all day, really. But we'll try to stay on topic as much as possible. Um, but each person is probably going to take about 15 minutes, just because the questions are a little heavy. I mean, the questions have a lot of information, and I want to get a lot of information out of the people because, again, this topic is very serious and very, like, very touching, especially if it's like you relate it to yourself and what would you do. So each person is going to take about 15 minutes to talk about their opinions and the questions that I have for them. And then we'll close out with me at the end talking about how this is just a project. This is only these they were under their own consent. They said yes to filming, and just basically just closing it out, saying that's my project. I also chose to do a podcast because there's just a lot of information, and it's easier to just listen rather than having to read, because if you read, especially in this certain topic, especially if you're reading what the person is saying, you can't hear the tone. So I could say something like, oh, like, I don't like this person, but somebody could say like, "Oh, I don't like this person," but like it's just a tone thing. So especially with this certain topic, I think that it's easier just to listen to it, especially since it's a lot of going back and forth, and maybe they have different opinions than me. Maybe we start arguing. Maybe anything could really happen. So I think a podcast is just a little bit better, just to hear and just to get the gist of it, honestly. But yeah, the podcast should take at least under 30 minutes. I'm shooting for at least 20 minutes of footage, if not a little under 30 minutes, just because I don't want to make it too long of a podcast. I mean, people either do really good with podcasts or don't. So I'm going to try to keep it under 30 minutes, or at least 25 minutes. But that's how the gist of my podcast is going to go. Yes, there's a lot of information. Yes, this is a crazy topic, and I just feel like it's a good debatable topic. I mean, people people could have family in prison, and people could like say no, like, yeah, I have my uncle in prison, and like I can't wait for him to get out, like all this stuff, but he has a life sentence and maybe he's never coming out. So it's just there's a lot of information. And I feel like a podcast would do really good with this. The reason why I wanted to make a podcast of this topic or even write an essay about this topic is because I feel like there's no real justice in any prison life at all. Like I personally feel like prison is not a punishment. Just because they're living in prison without a care in the world, they have no debt, they have no like worry, honestly. They're just living in prison, eating, showering. You get to shower in prison. Like you get to shower, you get to eat, you get to get tattoos, you get to work out. I mean, I honestly don't feel like there's no form of justice. So that's why I feel like I feel a lot for families because their their loved one is lost while the murderer or whoever did anything to them is in prison, still alive and like, just still living in prison, getting fed and showered and everything, even sleeping. Um, and I feel like it's also another big thing because being homeless is worse than being in jail. Like if worse comes to worse, if I had to pick being homeless or going to jail, I'm going to jail just because there's a roof over my head and I'm getting fed. It's probably not the best food, but it is what it is. And I mean, I don't feel like it's like it's not a good punishment, and I feel like prisoners that have a life sentence, you have a life sentence for a reason. You did something bad. You've done something really bad, and there's no reason why like there's no reason why the judge gave you a life sentence like for no reason. You have had to done something unbelievably insane. But that's why I'm doing this type of topic, just because I don't feel like there's really any justice in going to prison. But that is what this podcast is going to be about. I can't wait for you to hear my podcast. I hope you really enjoy it. Um, and yeah, if you have any, honestly, if you do have any opinions, I would love to hear them because I'm very intrigued in this type of topic. I can't wait to talk about my opinion on this topic. But thank you for listening.